Imola, a classic European circuit set in the rolling countryside of Italy's Emilia-Romagna region, amidst vineyards and orchards. It is also in the heart of the supercar universe, a stone's throw away from the factories of Ferrari, Maserati, and of course Lamborghini. It's a track that every racing driver loves to drive, and today I'm here to drive this track in an Aventador and a Gallardo as part of the Castrol Edge Lamborghini experience. Well, we're here at the Imola circuit, and what's happening over here is a little bit of a taster of things to come. It's to try and understand the power of the Gallardo over here. So a little bit of an oversteer exercise, and just to get used to it, it's going to be a fun day. Our group was a mixed one with varying levels of experience. Some had never driven anything more powerful than a Swift. It was a good idea then to give them a full briefing before introducing them to these terrifyingly powerful cars. The session at the skid pad gave everyone a chance to get the hang of driving sideways, which wasn't always easy. After some good power sliding, it was time to move on to the next stage. Well, I think the whole thing about this Castrol Edge Lamborghini experience is that they're building it up slowly. We were on the oversteer pad just to get a little taste of the power. Now we are shifting to the slalom. Again, not very quick, but again, it just gives you a feel of what the car is, but really waiting for the big one which is out there on the track. Driving a slalom is usually done in first or second gear and is quite easy if you don't push hard. But to be really quick through the cones, you need a fair amount of skill. It's all about balancing the steering and throttle to wiggle through the cones as quickly as possible. In fact, lifting off the throttle is as important as squeezing the pedal. This takes your weight off the rear wheels and tightens your line. The sudden direction changes through the cones also give drivers a good idea of the Gallardo's responsiveness and traction levels. A good precursor then to the main event. Okay, now it's time to drive on the Imola circuit. It's a Formula One circuit, and we are driving in cars no less than Aventadors and Gallardos. So really looking forward to this because it's an F1 circuit with cars that are between 550 to 700 bhp. Warmed up and in the groove, it was time to strap into the Aventador and head out behind the instructor to lap Imola at a great pace. Lamborghini's flagship supercar is a real event, even when it's standing still. And once on the move, all your senses simply fly into overload. Imola's mix of fast straights, high-speed corners, chicanes and hairpins is what makes it one of the best driver circuits in the world. The great mix of challenging corners and undulating terrain is hard enough to master when driving something a bit tamer, but behind the wheel of a 700 bhp Lambo, the thrills are elevated to another plane. It's a good thing then that the Aventador in front of me isn't pushing too hard and driving just a notch below my limit. 5 intense laps later, feeling like I've driven a whole race, I cruise back to the pits thinking about the stresses the V12 engine must be under. In a V12 like an Aventador, running at max revs, I mean, what's the kind of stress and what does the oil typically have to go through?
It's very stressful, definitely. It goes through a lot. So these engines are pumping out 700 horsepower. So that kind of that's going to the rear wheels, but the heat that the engine's producing is also 700 horsepower, and that gets transferred via the oil into the cooling system of the engine. So it's a massive amount of energy for the oil to control, and at those powers the pressures in the engine are massive.
And how would, let's say, the kind of stress on the oil in this engine differ, let's say, from a normal road car? And what are the sort of lessons you learn, let's say, from high performance engines and racing in general?
So racing engines have a very different appetite to a normal road car. They're racing engines, and these high performance engines run much hotter, harder than a normal road car, although as manufacturers drive down the cost of motoring and try to make fuel economy more important, or it is more important, we all know that there's a finite, everyone wants better fuel economy in their cars, so the manufacturers are taking lessons from these high performance engines and making it work in their road cars.
The last session of the day saw me back on track behind the wheel of the Gallardo. And the truth is that the smaller Lambo is infinitely easier to drive than the monstrous Aventador, which felt edgy and downright terrifying. It's not that the Gallardo is slow. The LP574 Superleggera has, as its name suggests, almost 570 bhp on tap, but it feels more stable than the Aventador under braking, and it even puts the power down more cleanly without too much shimmying around. Now more familiar with the circuit and in a car that's easier to drive fast, my confidence levels and speeds kept rising. In fact, if someone had been timing me, it would be very likely indeed that I was lapping quicker in the Gallardo than the Aventador. Proof then that a Gallardo is probably all the Lambo you really need. It's been a long day here at Imola. We've been doing a lot of driving, but we've just not been able to get enough of it. Now, this isn't just an ordinary Formula One circuit. This is a circuit that's really steeped in history. It's really challenging, and driving these cars, the Aventadors and Gallardos, is what made the day truly special.